The train was slowed by snow squalls in the north and thick ground fog to the south along the Hudson River. The slow, tortuous journey was all but unbearable, and mile by mile, alternating between prayers and a sense of desolation, Roosevelt's thoughts skewed wildly from hope to abject fear. One moment he believed the God he worshipped would show infinite mercy, and the next he dreaded he would be too late. He cursed himself for not being there, for having left when he should have stayed. The train pulled into Grand Central Station shortly after 10 o'clock. Roosevelt was out the vestibule door before the coaches stopped rolling and hurried up the stairway to the main terminal. The central chamber was a vast Beaux-Arts amphitheater with vaulted arches, massive stained glass windows, and the constellations of the zodiac wrought in gold against blue on a majestic ceiling. He marched through the terminal as though blind to the airy marble colossus. People invariably noticed Roosevelt and were quick not to block his path. He stood 4 inches shy of 6 feet and weighed perhaps 150 pounds when fully clothed. Yet he was unusually muscular, with a bull-like chest and a thick neck that strained against his shirt collar. His eyes were pale blue, pince-nez glasses squeezed onto his nose over a full mustache, and brushy side whiskers emphasized his hard, square jaw. His expression was offset by a mouthful of dazzling tombstone teeth, and bordered on the snarl of a man peering directly into the sun. He looked like he could walk through granite. Outside the terminal, he caught a hansom cab on 42nd Street. The broad thoroughfare and nearby buildings were all but invisible in a dense, drizzling mist. For the past 10 days, the city had been enveloped in a fog so pervasive that there was little difference between dawn and dusk. The air smelled of sodden ashes, for homes and businesses were heated by coal, and street lamps appeared shrouded in a viscous gray gauze. The driver held his horse to a cautious walk in the soupy murk. Roosevelt was reminded of a similar night, just 6 years ago. An undergraduate at Harvard, he'd taken the train from Boston after being notified his father was mortally ill. Theodore Sr. was a partner in an importing firm, a millionaire several times over, and the Roosevelts were among the inner circle of New York aristocracy. Only 46, he had taken ill suddenly and died 3 days later of a malignant tumor of the bowel. A noted philanthropist, Theodore Sr. had been a man of tireless vitality, whose love of family was matched by his compassion for the poor. Roosevelt still thought of him by the name he'd secretly invented as a child, Greatheart. 3 years later, in the summer of 1880, Roosevelt had graduated magna cum laude from Harvard. He and Alice had married that fall, shortly before he enrolled as a law student at New York's Columbia University. His father's idealism led him to consider a career generally shunned by the wealthier class, but one that enabled him to champion the rights of the downtrodden. In 1881, he joined the Republican Party, and at age 23, he was the youngest man ever elected to the New York State Legislature. His meteoric rise was attributed to his combative stance against the corrupt politics of Tammany Hall, and last November, he had been elected to a 3rd term in the legislature. The New York Times, in a recent article, hailed him as the most remarkable young politician of our day. Tonight, Roosevelt would have traded it all for a reversal of what he feared awaited him at home. As the cab drew to a halt before the mansion at 6 West 57th Street, he jumped out and handed a wad of bills to the driver. Through the fog, Roosevelt saw the dull glow of lamps inside, and he hurried up the steps and rapped sharply on the door. A moment elapsed, and he was about to knock again when the door opened. Elliot, who was 2 years younger, pulled him into the vestibule. Elliot's expression was stark. "Thank God you're here," he said. "I prayed you would make it in time." "What's happened?" Roosevelt demanded. "Mother and Alice were perfectly fine when I left for Albany." "Dr. Murdoch will have to explain it. I still find it all so incomprehensible." Anna and Corinne, Roosevelt's sisters, rushed from the parlor into the hallway. Anna, fondly known as Bammy, was the oldest at 29 and seemed destined for the life of a spinster. Corinne was the baby of the family, scarcely 22 and already married. Bammy threw herself into Roosevelt's arms. "Oh, Teddy," she cried in a shaky voice. "I can't bring myself to believe we might lose them." Roosevelt hugged her and drew Corinne into the embrace. The mansion was 3 stories, lavishly furnished with Persian carpets in every room, and an ornate hand-carved staircase leading to the upper floors. Usually alive with laughter and gaiety, the house was now eerily quiet. Bammy sniffled, her eyes moist with tears, and Roosevelt patted her shoulder. "Where is Dr. Murdoch?" he said. "I must speak with him." "In the parlor," Corinne said softly. "We've been waiting for you." Dr. Harold Murdoch was a short, stout man with a mane of white hair. He was standing before a blazing fireplace when they came to the doorway to the parlor. His features were dour as he moved forward to shake hands with Roosevelt. Watching them, Elliot was struck again by his brother's force of character. Whenever he entered a room, he radiated such a sense of voltage that he immediately became the central presence. Tonight he seemed somehow larger than life in a house of death. "I require an explanation," he said with a perfunctory handshake. "On Sunday, you assured me there was no reason for concern. What has happened to change your diagnosis?" "Your mother contracted pneumonia," Murdoch said frankly. "Her condition deteriorated overnight, and the suddenness of it has no medical explanation. She was simply too frail to fight it off." "Are you saying there's nothing to be done?" "Nothing known to medical science, Mr. Roosevelt. Only the very strong of constitution survive pneumonia." Bammy snuffled quietly, while Corinne and Elliot averted their eyes. Roosevelt stared directly at the physician. "And what of my wife?" "Bright's disease," Murdoch informed him. "In layman's terms, irreversible failure of the kidneys. She's probably had it for some time, a dormant strain, lying in wait." "Lying in wait for what?" "A stress to the system too grievous to endure. Quite likely the rigors of childbirth unleashed toxins into her system. Her delivery was long and difficult." Roosevelt frowned. "You couch these terms in a certain vagary, Doctor. Perhaps we need another medical opinion." "I felt so too," Murdoch said. "Dr. John Phelps, chief surgeon at St. Luke's, was here this afternoon. He concurs with what is now my prognosis." "Prognosis, as in final, if I understand the distinction. Are you convinced there's no hope?" "I regret to say that is correct, Mr. Roosevelt." "You've made no mention of the baby. Is she well?" "Your daughter is quite healthy, perfectly fit. You needn't worry." Roosevelt's gaze was drawn to the fireplace. He stood for a moment, staring into the flames, as if unwilling to accept the verdict on the women he loved most. Then, abruptly, he turned toward the doorway. "I must see them." "Mr. Roosevelt," Murdoch said gently. "Yes?" Roosevelt paused, unable to look back. "What is it, Doctor?"